All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most profound and, honestly, philosophically intense paths in Indian thought, Jnana Yoga, which is the yoga of knowledge.
So I want to start by asking you a question. What if all the stress, all the struggle, all the things that you feel are holding you back in life, what if they weren't actually real problems? What if they were all rooted in one single, fundamental misunderstanding?
Well, Jnana Yoga argues that's exactly the case. It puts forward this pretty radical idea that freedom from suffering isn't something you achieve through doing things, or even through devotion. It's achieved through the direct, clear-eyed removal of ignorance. It's the path to freedom through knowledge.
But we've got to be super clear about what knowledge means here. The Sanskrit word jnana, well, it isn't about memorizing facts or reading a ton of books. It's pointing to a kind of realization that is direct, it's intuitive, and it's totally unshakable. It's about knowing reality as it truly is, way beyond just concepts and appearances.
So how does this actually work? To really get a handle on Jnana Yoga, we have to start with its most basic philosophy, this core idea that knowledge itself is liberation.
So the core problem, according to this path, boils down to one single thing, avidya, which you can think of as spiritual ignorance. Imagine you're in a really dark room and you see a coil of rope on the floor, but you mistake it for a snake. That fear you feel, it's totally real. Your heart pounds, you start sweating, but it's all based on a complete misperception. Jnana Yoga says that our suffering is just like that, a very real reaction to an illusion caused by misidentifying who we truly are.
So what's the light that suddenly turns on and shows you it's just a rope? Well, it's the realization of this ultimate truth. Atman equals Brahman. What does that mean? It means that your individual self, the very core of your being, that's the Atman. It's not separate from, but is actually identical to, the ultimate universal reality, the Brahman. Now, knowing this directly isn't just some interesting philosophical tidbit. No, this is the knowledge that literally dissolves ignorance, and right along with it, all that suffering.
Okay, but you can't just wake up one morning and decide to realize the ultimate nature of reality. Jnana Yoga is a seriously demanding discipline, and it requires a really stable foundation. And that foundation is built through what's known as the fourfold qualification.
So these are the four prerequisites, the things you need to have in place. First up is viveka, which is this constant practice of telling the difference between what is eternal and what is just temporary. Second, you have vairagya, which is a natural sense of dispassion for worldly things that kind of grows out of that discrimination. Third, there's the shat sampad. This is a set of 6 key virtues, like mental calm and control of the senses, that all work together to build a stable, focused mind. And finally, and this one is huge, mumukshutva, a burning, all-consuming desire for freedom. Because without that intense motivation, the path is just too tough.
So once that foundation is solid, how do you actually practice Jnana Yoga, right? How do you go from just believing something intellectually to directly realizing it? Well, the path lays out a very clear 3-step method.
First is Shravana, which means listening. This is about systematically hearing the core teachings, like Atman is Brahman, from a qualified teacher. Second is Manana, which means reflection. This is where you bring in your logic and reason to really think through everything you've heard, working out every single doubt until you're intellectually convinced. And finally, there's nididhyasana, or deep contemplation. This is where you meditate on that truth until it shifts from being just an idea in your head to being your direct, lived experience.
Now, let's zoom out a bit, because it's really helpful to see where Jnana Yoga fits in with other spiritual paths you've probably heard of. It's not the only game in town. It's one very specialized path among several major ones.
And what's really fascinating here is just how different these approaches are. I mean, while Bhakti Yoga is all about emotional surrender to God, and Karma Yoga is all about selfless action in the world, Jnana Yoga is laser-focused on discriminative knowledge. And check out their view of the world. For a Karma Yogi, the world is a field for duty, a place to do good. But for the Jnana Yogi, that same world is ultimately seen as illusory. It really shows you how each path is tailored for a completely different kind of person, the devotee, the worker, or the deep thinker.
So, after digging into the philosophy, the preparation, the practice, what's the big takeaway here? What does this all really mean for us?
This quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of the entire philosophy. Freedom isn't something you have to create or earn or get to someday in the future. According to Gyana Yoga, freedom is your actual nature. It's a reality that's just there.
waiting to be known, once all those clouds of ignorance are cleared away. The reason this path is so powerful, why it's lasted for so long, is its incredible, unwavering belief that truth, and truth alone, is enough. This isn't about becoming a better person or getting to some heaven. It's about seeing reality with total, absolute clarity. And in that very act of seeing, in that direct realization, lies absolute, unconditional freedom.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. Jnana Yoga makes a pretty powerful case that all our bondage is just a case of mistaken identity. And if that's true, if ignorance really is the only chain holding us back, then is knowledge the only key?